Right, hello everyone, welcome to the CEM Non-Verbal Reasoning and Maths Year 5 Block 6 Lesson number 4. My name is Nick Lloyd and today we're going to go through a preview of that lesson. Let's get started. First things first you're going to need for me is to get out the material you've been using. Now if you've been at Chris's lesson you might have already had this out and ready, in which case fantastic, you're ready to go. But just a reminder, this is the sheet we're using today, so it's the answer sheet for Test A Paper 2. And it's in the Get Started section here. So Get Started is super important. You may have heard me say this before, but I will say it again because it's just a really good explanation. This book on the right, this practice test papers, is really, it's best thought of as 3 books altogether. There's Get Started, which is the first book that goes from 0 to 90. Then there's Get Ahead, which is the next 0 to 90, and then finally Get Test Ready. And so obviously these are 3 different books, and that's why the page numbers restart. If you haven't already, I strongly encourage you just to flick through the book and just look at the page numbers and try and work out how it's organised, because it will certainly make your life a lot easier. But again, if you've been with Chris' lesson, this will be the same answer sheet that you were using for that one. So hopefully it's all out and ready. If not, pause the video here, get yourself sorted until you've got this out and ready, and then we'll know where to start. So in this lesson, we're focusing on maths and non-verbal reasoning. We're going to focus initially on some problem-solving questions on non-verbal first, and then we'll finish with some numeracy if there's time, and there will be time for it today because, of course, it's a recorded session. The first section of the sheet we're going to be focusing on is this one, the problem-solving section, and it does tell you, if you look, that we're focusing on pages 28 to 30, so that's where we'll find the questions. Just a reminder, the symbols I want you to look out for. If you see an arrow, that means keep going, continue along the last instruction. But if you ever come to a cross, that's where you stop and wait for further instructions. And those instructions might be from me verbally, or they might be from the audio file. And again, I will be using, if you came to a lesson before, I'll be using the same style, the same audio file to really sort of replicate the exam. Because again, not only in the exam will you have these answer sheets to navigate your way around, but you'll also be using these audio files. So what I'd like from you guys, hopefully you can see here, this is now me being ready. I've got my problem solving questions, which are on page 28. Hopefully you can see that, page 28 in the top corner. And I've got my answer sheet ready and raring to go. And I'm happy, and I've checked, again, I've checked the corners of the sheet, so everything. So it's test A, paper 2, get started. Right, everyone, what we're going to do is I'm going to start playing the audio instructions. I might sort of pause to interject if I think there's any important points. We're going to just listen to those audio instructions now, and then work our way through. One thing I will say from this particular question type, I don't think it mentions in the instructions, and that's actually a bit of a clue. You've been given this box of answers, so A through J, and these are the answers that you're going to use for all questions. And you'll hear this, since it doesn't mention using the questions only once, we can assume that you're allowed to use the same answer multiple times. So you might have 3 answers that are all a half. Since it doesn't specify otherwise, we have to assume that that's the case. So please don't assume on this, although it might be worth still ticking off the ones you've used out of interest. It's not worth assuming that just because I've used a question once, it can't come out again. And the reason for that is it doesn't say in the question, and if that was the case, it would have to say so. Right, everyone, let's listen to the instructions together.
Problem solving. You have 8 minutes to complete the following section. You have 10 questions to complete within the time given. Listen to these examples. Example 1. Select an answer to the question from the 10 different possible answers in the table above. Tom buys a chocolate bar for £1.50. He pays with a £5 note. How much change does he receive? A. 1/2. B. £3. C. £3.50. D. 3/4. E. 1/3. F. £1.50. G. £5. H. 2/5. I. £4. J. 5/6. The correct answer is C. This has already been marked in example 1 in the problem-solving section of your answer sheet.
And again, I just check to make sure I agree and understand with how to mark the answers.
Practice question 1. Sarah eats 1/4 of a pizza. What fraction of the pizza remains? A. 1/2. B. £3. C. £3.50. D. 3/4. E, 1/3. F, £1.50. G, £5. H, 2/5. I, £4. J, 5/6. The correct answer is D. Please mark this in practice question 1 in the problem-solving section of your answer sheet.
Right, guys, I'm actually just going to pause it there and interject. What you may have noticed about this is when that lady was reading out all those questions, that was quite a lot of time. And I don't know about you, but certainly I don't feel like I needed all that time, certainly for the example where I'd found the £3.50 pretty much straight away. So one thing I just want to make you aware of, you're not allowed to move on from this page. You see at the bottom, you can't see it on my screen because the screen cuts it off slightly, but below there is a big X that says stop here after this section. But that doesn't mean you can't start doing things that will help you prepare. What do I mean by that? For example, well, while she's reading out the examples, if you have answered both, you're confident, you're happy, you know how to do these, you could use that time to be productive. Now, for example, in my mind, for non-verbal, I might like to just list off the SPANSROS acronym. And again, it could only be on this page. You wouldn't be able to turn the page, but you could just, for example, jot out SPANSROS, because that might just help you as something to reference. For maths, it might be the case that you list out a couple of formula, or you might list out some key information that might come up, that might not. So just a reminder that 10%, we divide by 10, and to find 100%, sorry, to find 1% of something, we divide by 100. These might be sort of key things that you've tried to memorize that you have troubles with. It might be the definition, so you might just quickly write out, mode equals. Now, whatever things you jot out, these will be things that are personal to you. Basically, if you're going to spend the time writing, it has to be something that you don't know or you struggle with, or something that you've stored in your mind. You've been revising it. If you don't jot it down very quickly, for example, any formula. So, for example, I know sometimes there are speed questions. So the fact that speed equals distance divided by time. That's something a lot of students often find a bit challenging. Or the area of a triangle. So you might say sort of the triangle is half the base times the height. It's not the end of it is so if you do get given empty time that's useless, it might be worth just making a note of stuff or even just thinking about stuff in that time that could help you later on. And again, you wouldn't be able to look ahead and find out what questions are coming up. That would get you, quite severely penalized. But you could do any working out here, any notes or anything you wanted to write in this section that may help later, that you can. So that's just something to think about, especially with this kind of question where they're reading out a long list of information that really isn't actually that useful. It was having that lady list out the answers to those questions several times. That didn't really offer much. And so just have a think about different ways you can do stuff. Another bit of maths you could be doing at that time, for example, is taking your minutes and your questions and working out how long in seconds you have per question. Things like that, things that you can just do that are going to be productive in that time that will help. Now, this is presuming, of course, you've understood exactly and you're really content with how they've marked the answers. One thing that I will say, of course, if you end up getting the practice question wrong, that's absolutely the time to sort of raise your hand and say, I'm so sorry, I don't understand, please explain. Because, of course, if you've not accessed the practice question, well, the practice questions are usually easier than the real deal. So if something's gone wrong here and your answer was different to their one, you need to sort of interject then and find out why. Right, guys, what's going to happen is we'll press play on the recording. The lady will say, you may begin. But of course, that's where really, because of the YouTube video, I need you to pause the YouTube video, have a timer out, spend 8 minutes on the problem solving questions, and then come back to me on the YouTube video. So I'll just keep this video rolling and hopefully see you all in 8 minutes. So I just play it now. Here she comes.
You may now begin this section.
Okay, so pause here. That's what it'll sound like. Pause here, and I'll see you back here in 8 minutes to go through the answers. Right, guys, welcome back. Hopefully you're ready to run through the answers together. So let's do this very quickly. So 1 is H, 2 is E, 3 is A, and 4 is F. And in terms of the working out, for this one, I like to go from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock and work out the difference. So going from 10 to 12 is 2, and then to go from 2 to 7 is 7 hours, which means in total it's 9 hours, which is where that 9 hours came from. I think splitting it into sections like that makes it a little bit easier. Question 2, James eats 4 out of 12 eggs, and 4 out of 12 is a fraction simplified. is a third. This is what fraction. So we simplify our fractions. James drives to work. It takes 30 minutes. So in 30 minutes, he covers 12 kilometers. And he wants to know his speed per hour. Well, an hour is 60 minutes. So if I can work out how far he would have gone in 60 minutes, that will be the same thing as his speed per hour. And obviously, if he's going from 30 to 60 is double, so 12 to 24. So what this is telling you is in 24 minutes, he would have covered 24 kilometers, and that means he's going 24 kilometers per hour. So there's the answer. There's the answer. In fact, what I think I'll do, I won't box them, that doesn't look very nice, but I'll tick them. So we've used A, we're going to use F, we've used E, and we use H. It'll just be interesting to see if we do use all the questions, or we do end up using some twice. It's interesting, who knows. Number 4 is quite easy. It's just asking you to find the difference, how many more men, so that's just a simple subtraction. So the maths is a bit easy, but perhaps spotting what to do is a bit harder. So it's a difference question, which gave us 74. Right, next page. So question 5 is B. Question 6 is J. Question 7 is E. Question 8 is C. Just go through and do the working. So here, 12 meetings. Each meeting is 10 minutes. So it's going to be 12 times 10. This is number 5, which is 120 minutes. And it says, how long does he spend? Well, since we don't have an answer 120, but I do have spotted some answers in hours. Let's just quickly convert it to hours. And of course, 120 minutes is 2 hours, which is where our answer comes from. Question 6. James, a sandwich costs £2.50 and £1.20. He buys them both and pays us £5. How much change? Classic question. This one comes up an awful lot. It's definitely worth getting comfortable with. So the first step is to add what he spent together. So £5.20. So £2.50 plus £1.20 is going to give you £3.70. And the change from that is going to be £5 minus £3.70, which is where we got our answer of £1.30 from. £1.30. Question 7. He feels sleepy, so he takes a nap. What fraction of an hour does he take? Well, it's 20 out of an hour, but that doesn't do much good. But I also know that an hour is 60 minutes. And 20 out of 60 is a fraction that I can simplify. So 20 out of 60 I can simplify down to maybe 2 out of 6. And then 1/3. So you'll see here, look, we actually use E twice. It just shows we used E before, we've used E again. So it just shows you that you can use these multiple times. I know that's something that people often assume just because they give you a grid. That you're not allowed to use them multiple times, but unless it specifically says that, you can't assume that, I'm afraid, guys and girls. Right, James earns £7.50 an hour. How much does he earn in half an hour? So we want to know half that time. I know that half is divided by 2, so I'm just going to do 2 divided by £7.50. 2's into 7 go 3 times, remainder 1. Put the decimal in the same place. 2's into 15 go 7, remainder 1. And 2's into 10 go 5. So he earns £3.75. Which, if I'm not mistaken, there you go, is C. Right, last 2 answers. So for number 9, the answer is I. And for question 10, the answer is D. Let's just really quickly do our working. So after work, James drives to the gym. It takes 20 minutes. So in 20 minutes, he's gone 9 kilometers. What's his speed? Again, this classic question, you've seen it twice in this section. We now need to know how far has he gone in an hour, because if I know how far he's gone in an hour, that is his speed. So in 60 minutes, that's going to be 3 times as much. So he'll have covered 3 times as much. So he'll have covered 27 kilometers. And if he's done 27 kilometers in 60 minutes, that means he has done 27 kilometers per hour. So that's our answer I. And finally, James brushes his teeth every night before going to bed. He also brushes his teeth in the morning, so that's twice per day. How many times does he brush his teeth in August? Well, August has got 31 days, which means a total of 62, which is where our answer came from. Right, guys, that's it. Give yourself a score out of 10. Really well done if you finished on time. I will just say, guys, if you didn't finish on time, it's absolutely okay after the 8 minutes up to go back and try again and fill in the bits you missed or the bits you didn't manage to cover. That's absolutely fine. So if you ever don't finish these tests on time, please don't just leave the sections you missed out blank. Do go back in and fill them. It's very important that you do that. Right, let's have a look at the next section. So this one is going to be the non-verbal reasoning. So it'll look like this, non-verbal reasoning. And it tells us we're looking for pages 34 to 38. So if you can get out for me, please, and non-verbal reasoning, you find on page 34, and make sure you're looking at the correct part of your question sheet. Again, for this, I'm going to play the lady's instructions. She'll go through quite a few examples here, so it's really important we listen very carefully to all the examples. For this, to speed up again, we'll listen to the examples. She'll say you can begin. We'll have 8 minutes, and then you'll come back in 8 minutes' time for the examples. Let me just quickly get this ready. So it's 24:33 is when she starts talking. So let's turn there. Right, guys, so let's listen together to her instructions.
Reasoning.
Sorry, I went back a bit too early.
Reasoning.
Here it comes.
Non-verbal reasoning. You have 8 minutes to complete the following section. You have 15 questions to complete within the time given.
So start
Listen
thinking.
to these examples and look at the images on the page. Similarity. Example 1. The 3 figures given are similar in some way. Work out how they are similar and select the figure that goes with them. The correct answer is D. This has already been marked in example 1 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet. Similarity. Practice question 1. The 3 figures given are similar in some way. Work out how they are similar and select the figure that goes with them. The correct answer is B. Please mark this in practice question 1 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet. CubeNet. Example 2.
I'll just pause it there. And again, guys, remember, once you've done these, do start thinking about things like how long will I have? So if you do finish these a bit early, start making sure you know exactly how long you're going to have per question. And again, if you do get anything wrong, you're not sure what's happened, that's the time to ask questions. Let me continue, sorry.
2. Look at the CubeNet below. Select the only cube that could be formed from the net. The correct answer is B. This has already been marked in example 2 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet.
I'm going to pause it here again and just say, look, and great example. Cubes and nets is one of the things where we teach, for example, the pairs, where you label the sides, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Now, that labeling, you don't have to do each time. If you do that just once as a little reminder to yourself, and you may jot out the spansros, that's going to be useful for all subsequent questions you try. It seems like a great idea to get that jotting out the way now during the examples, just listing out any bits of information. Also, I know that, for example, I've given you 4 rules for how to do these. If you wanted to list out the 4 rules, look for alien shapes, look for pairs, look for direction, look for left versus right. If you jot that out now as a reminder, you're not using up your valuable exam time, but you're still contributing to your exam success in a positive way. And that's really what I mean about using this question time thoroughly and successfully to help yourself get set up. Again, you can only write things on this page. You mustn't turn the page, but doesn't mean you couldn't just jot things down now to sort of stimulate your mind, remind yourself of what's important. Let's carry on.
CubeNet. Practice question 2. Look at the CubeNet below. Select the only cube that could be formed from the net. The correct answer is C. Please mark this in practice question 2 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet. Complete the sequence. Example 3. Select the correct picture from the row on the right in order to finish the incomplete sequence on the left. The correct answer is A. This has already been marked in example 3 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet. Complete the sequence. Practice question 3. Select the correct picture from the row on the right in order to finish the incomplete sequence on the left. The correct answer is D. Please mark this in practice question 3 in the non-verbal reasoning section of your answer sheet.
Right, guys, so they've gone through the examples. She's about to say that you can
You may
start.
now
Oh,
begin this.
no, not yet, lady. So she's about to say you can start. Again, guys, just as a reminder, lots of elimination, any sketching, any of the tips and trips we've gone through that are going to be really useful. So again, in terms of similarity, it's looking at one feature per time, making sure you've analysed it. With here, we mentioned, I'll just quickly jot them out again. We want to look for one is alien, shapes, 2 is pairs, 3 is direction, ooh, or arrows. I will move it so you can see it nice and clearly, don't you worry. Let me just do that now, in fact. And then finally, final thing to consider is the step 4, left versus right. So please don't forget all the things we've covered before. And again, with sequences, remember as well, jotting, drawing in the gap can be really useful to sort of predict what's coming up next. If you spotted patterns, drawing them in is absolutely, so drawing what you expect to see. So 1, 2, oh, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that to give you an indication is absolutely okay. Right, everyone, again, good luck. What we'll do, make sure you've got 8 minutes on the clock and come back in 8 minutes time for the answers. Here goes play.
Section.
So she said you may begin. See you all in 8 minutes. Right, guys, welcome back to the answer section. So we're going to start going through these. And again, we'll try and explain them as we go. If there are any questions for these, again, I know sometimes these can be a bit hard when you're just listening to a recorded session. Remember, of course, you're more than welcome to come to any live lesson or any Q&A if you just wanted to pop by and ask some questions. That's absolutely not a problem. Let's just make sure we've got the right answers open. Oh, no, we want, here they are. So we've got number 1 is E. Select the three figures. Now just be clear, guys, in case my scans are slightly off, I noticed, for example, in the practice question, my scan was slightly different to the ones in your books. Always go with the in your book for as to why. And again, in this, all the answers need to be shaded black, and that's why E was the correct answer. Question 2, the answer is B. And it's because all these shapes are four-sided. They're quadrilaterals. Question 3, the answer is A. And it's because the figures on the left are all stars with an even number of points. So, for example, we've got 4 points, 6 points, and so on. So we need to be even pointed stars. So that will really come under number in our Spansros. Number 4, again, the answer is A. And that's because each figure should have an outer shape with a white heart inside. And therefore, the only one that has a white heart is A. Question 5, the answer is E. And the reason is you need to have an internal shape that has one more side than the external shape. So the inside shape should have one less, or the outside shape should have one more, whichever way you like to say it. Just an example here, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 8 sides. So again, number. And I always say, whenever you're looking for these patterns, these are ones outs, vastly often, number is one of the hardest ones to spot. Number and perhaps shading and symmetry, but really I think number is one of the most frequent ones to be missed. So if you're ever not sure, I recommend you start counting things. Right, question 6 and 7 here. So question 6, the answer is B. And question 7, the answer is A. And in terms of Y, what can you eliminate? Well, you can see you should never be able to have 3 next to each other, so that's gotten rid of. You certainly can't have 3 blacks, that comes under an alien shapes, and also having 2 black next to each other. If you look, that's a pair, so we can eliminate those. Again, as to why we can eliminate these, what's correct, what's not, well, we should see that the heart should be pointing away from the L block. If you see in B, it's the heart's pointing parallel to the L block. If we look at this one here, we end up having, look, the plus in the L block, so that's a pair that shouldn't exist. If you look at D, it's an alien shape, that L block has changed colour. Right, next page, 8, 9, and 10. So 8 is C, 9 is D, and 10 is A. Let's talk about Y. So if we can eliminate things again, if we're looking at number A, we've got the arrow coming out the top of the smiley face's head on here, and you can see, no, there should be a circle above it, so it's not A. For this one, similarly, if you look at that arrow, if you were to fold this round, the arrow should be pointing away from the smiley face, and this is pointing again sort of parallel, pointing up, so it's not B. And again, D, very similar, the smiley face and the arrow, this is how it should look, pointing away, and D's got it pointing down. So actually, really, it was sort of just 2 shapes that gave us a lot of information there. Right, let's have a look at this one. Why can't it be A? Well, if you look, this white shape here shouldn't have anything connecting to it, and here there's a black line connecting, so not A. What else? Well, B, again, we've got these connecting shapes, and it seems to me that it shouldn't happen because this one will be fitting in here like a T shape, like in D, so it's not B, because again, we've got things connecting. C is a case of alien shapes, so we've got 2 whites, and then that leaves us with D. Right, number 10, let's have a look at it and see as well what we can eliminate. So we can eliminate B because these are all, it's basically an alien shape. We've got the same star repeated 3 times, can't be that. If we look at number C, we've got the 4-sided, a 5. Let's just check, could we have a 4 and a 5? We could maybe have a 4 and a 5, but we couldn't have, and this is where my drawing's not as clear, we can't have that 5-sided shape. And I think, what is this? I have to reference my book, guys. Sorry, the scan isn't very clear. Let's just do that now. So test paper. You'll probably have to tell me. You should be shouting at your screen, telling me what the answer is, because you can see on yours a bit more clear. But luckily, I've got the book in front of me, so it won't take me long just to check. So I'm looking at it now. I think it's a simple fact that this one here has got too many sides. If you look, that's an alien shape, because we never have more than 7 sides, and that one looks like it's got 8. And again, another alien shape here with a black star. So it's actually 2 aliens. A bit easier than I thought. Very good. Right, guys, now for number 11. The answer to number 11 is going to be A. And the reason why, it's just alternating between grey, black, grey, black, grey, black. So that was nice and easy. Let's do these now. So 12B, 13B, 14B. Promise I'm not on repeat. These are all B. And then 15C. And let's just go through and explain why. So for number 11, we talked about it's because it alternates. For number 12, each block is losing a shape. So obviously it's going, 4, 3, 2 down, but also they're both black shapes. For 13, the heart is rotating 90-degree clockwise each time. So we just got to work out, I always give things direction to help me spot things. So it's going down, left, up, right, down again. And I'm just picking arbitrarily the base of the heart as there's down, but you can decide. However, again, just spotting that rotation, really key. 14, from left to right, the pentagon moves clockwise from one corner to the next. So you can see the corners are alternating around. And then the circle moves in a clockwise direction again from one corner to the next. So they're sort of chasing each other around the shape. And then, so following pentagon needs to end up here, as it does. And then the circle needs to end up down there. So pentagon top left, circle bottom right. Final one, 15, from each shape. Each shape has one more side than before. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-sided shape. And there's our answers. So very well done, guys. Give yourself a score out of 15. Hopefully that was nice and successful. I'm sure you were. And we're going to move on now to the last section, which is numeracy. Again, I'm just going to spend a bit of a moment here just to reiterate. Please make sure you're comfortable with this. Remember, each one, the first column is tens, the second column is units, tens, units. And if they have, which they often do, for example, 0 and 8. So if the answer to the practice question 1, which you saw last week, was 8, we write it as 0, 8, because you have to have an answer in every column, otherwise it will consider it blank. So that's really important. Now just one moment here. So this is the page. And just one moment while I quickly find the correct part of the audio file. And actually I will also want, I think, to copy this over. There. Right, let's get the audio file ready. And again, once the audio file listens, you can always have a little read while I go through it now. Just got to find it.
Low. B. Cold.
No, not that
C.
section.
Question on the...
Here we are, nearly there.
You have 9 minutes. Is 54. This has...
Sorry, guys, it takes a little bit of finicking to find the exact stuff.
Numeracy.
There we go.
You have 9 minutes to complete the following section. You have 18 questions to complete within the time given. Listen to these examples. Some questions within this section are not multiple choice. For these, write the answer to each question on the answer sheet by selecting the correct digits from the columns provided. Example 1. Calculate the answer to the following: 12 plus 42. The correct answer is 54. This has already been marked in example 1 in the numeracy section of your answer sheet.
So please check you're comfortable with how they've marked it. It's 54.
Practice question 1. Calculate the answer to the following: 55 minus 47. The correct answer is 8. Please mark this in practice question 1 in the numeracy section of your answer sheet. Note that a single-digit answer should be marked with a 0 in the left-hand column, so mark 08 on your answer sheet.
So again, guys, make sure you agree with that. And again, this is going to be a 9-minute quiz, sorry, 9-minute section. So again, make sure you've got a timer ready and see you back here in 9 minutes as soon as she says go.
You may now begin this section.
Okay, guys, see you in 9 minutes when you're ready for the answers. Pause me now. Right, welcome back, everyone. Let's run through the answers together. So again, some nice simple calculations. The answer to this one is 15, just simple taking away. The answer number 2 is 42. And the sequence is each time we're adding one less number. So we're adding 7, adding 6, adding 5, adding 4, adding 3. So eventually 39 plus 3 equals 42. And that was the pattern. Number 3, again with this one, which of these numbers is not divisible by 3? And the easy way of doing this is probably to say which one is not in the 3 times table. And the answer to that is 55. And that's because if you were to do 55 divided by 3, you'd end up with 18 remainder 1. But I don't think I'd want to have to do my bus stop for each of these numbers. I would just go through and tick off, nope, in the times table, in the times table, in the times table, in the times table. Is it in the times table? That one maybe you'd have to do a bit more maths to work out. But actually, if you look, a combination of 18, which is in the times table, and 30, see 18 plus 30 equals 48. Since both of these are in the times table, you'll know that the total will also be in the times table. And 27 we know. So that's probably your easiest way of doing it. Number 4. How many quarters are there in 8 3/4? Well, a couple ways of doing that. There's obviously going to be 4 quarters per whole. So we've got 8 wholes, so that's 8 times 4. give you 32 quarters in the 8 whole bits. We've also then got to add on the 3 quarters. So there's 32 plus 3 of the 3 quarters. So it's going to be 32 plus 3, which gives you 35 as an answer. There are 35 quarters in 8 3 quarters. Question 5, calculate the value of x in this equation. Interesting question here, I love these algebra ones. So 8 divided by something equals a half. So a few ways of doing it. You might just jump straight to the fact that it needs to be a balanced, so you might have said something like this. So the 0.5 is a half. So what fraction will be 8 over what? That's one way of doing it. Or you can solve it algebraically by timesing both sides by x. So you'd end up having x times a half equals 8. And then you can end up having x divided by a half. And that means 16. But I must say, I think this bit of algebra is a bit of a challenging one. So I think the easiest way is to do it this way, is just to recognize that a half will have to be equal to what fraction? And that is, again, 8 over 16, keeping it equivalent. Because we know this, 8 over 16 will simplify down to a half. But I thought I'd include just the algebra in case some of you guys tried it and I wanted to see how it should look. But my recommended method would be to actually just spot this one as 0.5 is a half and go from there. But again, either way works. Question 6. What is the remainder when 55 is divided by 11? So again, I would set myself up a bus stop. And for this one, 55 goes in 5 times. So the remainder, I think, will be 0. No remainder. So the answer to that question is 0. Bit of a trick question there, not very nice, but as long as you go through the process, double check everything. Once you've worked out what it must be, that's what the answer must be. How many millimeters are there in 4.8 centimeters? So again, this is a conversion you've just got to learn. I always think of myself as a ruler. 1 centimeter has 10 millimeters. So I'm going to times this by 10. And my answer is 48 millimeters. 48. Remember for this question as well, I forgot to mention, because you'd mark it as 0, 0. So on your grids, it would be the 2 options at the bottom. You've got to make sure you have 0, 0. Even though in real life, we'd only write 1, 0. 0 tens and 0 units. Number 8, how much greater is a quarter of 60 than a fifth of 70? Well, I'm going to work what both those are. So a quarter of 60 is 60 divided by 4, which is 15. And then a fifth of 70 is 70 divided by 5, 70 divided by 5. And 70 divided by 5 is 14. So how much greater? What's the difference? The difference is 1. That's 15 take away 14. And again, we'd write that as 0, 1. Number 9 gives us a chance to do some multiple choice. So we've mixed it up ever so slightly. Linda has 7 red, 6 green, 5 yellow, and 2 black. What fraction are not green? Well, I'm going to need to add up and work out the total number of balls. The total number of them, if I add them all together, is 20. So I know that it's out of 20. And then how many are not green? Well, 6 of them are green. That means there are 14 that aren't green. And this is now a fraction that I can simplify. So just be aware, if you ever get a chance to simplify, you must, and that simplifies down to 7 over 10. So number 9, 7 over 10. Number 10, a circle has a radius. I'll do myself a little sketch here, a radius of 32. What's the diameter? Well, the diameter I know is the entire length, so it's going to be twice the radius, so 64. And that's just a circle. So again, that one was my radius. That drawing was to show my diameter, both of them going through the midpoint. That's again a little important fact to know. So if you didn't, make sure you jot that fact down somewhere. You can revise later. Right, last few questions. Calculate the median. The median is in the middle. For this, you have to reorder them and put them in number. I'm not going to draw them out, but I'm hoping to trust you guys. But to do the median, you reorder the numbers from smallest to largest, and then just start crossing off from both sides until you're left with the middle number. And in this case, the middle number is 34. But remember to reorder the numbers first. Number 12. A fair die has got 6 outcomes. So there are 3 even numbers out of 6 outcomes, and that is the same as a half. So number 12, the answer is B, 1/2. 13. The coordinates of the vertices are as follows. What's the coordinate of the fourth vertex? I'm going to do myself a little sketch. So we've got, again, this is just a sketch, but it does help me picture mine. So 2, 2. We've then got 2, 6. And we've got the following. So if I think about it, we've got the 2's have been used. The ones we've not used is 6, 6. I know this because all the sides are the same, because it says it's a square. All these distances must be the same. So from here to here is going from 2 to 6, and from here to here is going from 2 to 6. When we do both, we're going from 2 to 6 and 2 to 6 on both cases. So the answer is A, 6, 6. Again, just to show you what I'm basically saying is from here to here is +4, and from here to here is +4. So if I apply the same measurements going the other way, I'm also adding +4 both times. Calculate the following: a half plus a third. 1/2 plus 1/3. For this, the rule is you must make the denominators the same. Excuse me, I'm just give myself some room. And the easiest way to find that is to multiply the numbers together, because you then know that you can find those and say, what did I do to a 2 to make it out of 6? I times it by 3, so 1 times 3 is 3. What did I do to 3 to make it 6? I times it by 2, and I have to do the same to the top, so 2 times 1 is 2. And now I've got the equivalent fractions as before, but with the same denominator, so now I can add them, becoming 5/6 D. Right, last page. We've done really well today, guys. Remember, guys, of course, you can pause videos if you need a bit more time on any of the working out. Calculate the following. Again, 2/3 times 1/4. I think this is actually easier than addition, because we simply do the numerator times the numerator, and the denominator times the denominator. So 2 times 1 was 2, 3 times 4 is 12, and it's simplified down to 1/6. Answer is C. Calculate the answer to the following. A half divided by 3. I'm actually going to choose to set this out like this. 3/1. And the reason is 3 divided by 1 is still 3, but it's just slightly easier to see. And this is where we use the rules KFC. Oops, sorry. KFC, keep, flip, change. And the rule is keep the first fraction the same, flip the second fraction, so it comes from 3/1 to 1/3, and change the sign from times to divide. And now, whatever the answer to this sum is, will also be the answer to that. And if you're not sure, use a calculator, try it out, and you'll see that it works. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 3 is 6. So a half divided by 3 is a 1/6. But that's the method for doing it. And if you might not have seen this before, in which case you might have to go away and do a little bit of practice, but this is the rule that's definitely worth learning. So for both multiplication and division of fractions, you end up multiplying either way. It's just you have to do the KFC, the keep, flip, change first. Good question. Number 17. The D is 3 times larger than the number P. The number F is twice as large as D. What expression shows the value of the number F in terms of P? Okay, well, so D is going to be 3 times larger than P. So D is equal to 3 lots of P. And then F is twice as large as D. So F is equal to 2 lots of D. If we then sort of combine those together, so F is 2 lots of D. So F is going to be equal to 2 lots of this. So it's going to be equal to 2 times 3P. So F is equal to 2 times 3, which is 6 lots of P. So my final answer 6p. Again, another slightly tougher question. The difficulty is starting to go up a little bit, I feel, with these. But they're very good questions nonetheless. Number 18, rectangle, a length of 7. The length of a rectangle is, the length is twice its width. So that means this is twice as big as its width. So its width must be half as much. So that's 3.5. So if I label up all my sides, it now wants to know what the perimeter is. The perimeter, I just have to add them all up. So that's going to be 7 plus 7, which is 14. 3.5 plus 3.5 equals 7. And 14 plus 7 equals 21 centimeters. Final answer. Right, guys, that's it. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, give yourself a score. Really well done. Remember, you can check the back of the book, or not the back of the book, apologies, page, I think it is 91 of Get Started to find the answers. If you need any more detail, do have a look there. And I will leave you with the homework. So it's for both myself and Chris, with the week 2 homeworks you can find here. Right, everyone, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. Really good work today. And we'll see you all next week. All the best, everyone. Stay safe. Bye-bye.